Hi, everybody. Hello. um, so the last two videos have been kind of strong, kind of strong. Um, Honestly, I think those two, it may be tapping more into the Pluto retrograde coming up literally. I don't know why my chat does that sometimes now. It's like every other time I come live. That's reliable. It's reliably unreliable. That's not anything new to me. It's fine. Um, I think it's a little bit more of the the Pluto retrograde that's coming up literally like right after the full moon in Scorpio, that Pluto retrograde. And Muriel, Angel of Cancer. And it has the ability, I guess, to like, if anything comes up right now that is in need of purging. Let's see when it goes direct. Excuse me. I had a good nap. If anything comes up right now that's in need of purging, then it's almost like it can be delayed over the space of however long Pluto is retrograde. And not necessarily delayed as in a sense of slowed, but kind of sort of delayed in the sense of like maybe it stretches out that time of completion. But the thing about Scorpio and Pluto is that there are many there are many or at least a few different branches to the underworld. There's a few different destinations when it comes to the underworld itself. And then also, why is Tyche coming to my mind? Tyche. Um, but also like that doesn't speak of the rebirth either, like coming out of the underworld. Tyche is a goddess. Okay. I don't know. Oh, it's Fortuna. Okay. Well, I guess I'll read Tyche in a second. There's a few different places that you can end up, right? And so when I was asleep, I feel like I was using these angel cards, but it just kept replaying and repeating over and over like, this is the start, this is the beginning. And then I was like, oh, like it makes sense. Like where we are now is the start, where we are now is the beginning, or whatever, of whatever. I don't know. It's like this is the beginning, this is the beginning, this is the beginning. That's all I remember. And there are some times when I have certain dreams, if I think something is important, then I'll repeat it over and over and over again to try to make sure I remember when I wake up. Sometimes it's like I'll have a dream and something will be like repeated over and over and over again so that I remember when I wake up. But it's less me deciding and it's just like the dream. It's like when a CD skips. It's like the dream playing the same part over and over. And I don't remember what the cards are, but I feel like it was in this, like after coming off of the Scorpio full moon space, because I think I was looking for Sariel. That's what I'm going to do now to look for around this moon. I think, again, the last two things may pertain more to the Pluto retrograde and how Pluto can traditionally, or Pluto can more modernly be the space of judgment in the major arcana. Judgment, traditionally fire, the element of fire. Um, and I still don't think that the South Node in Sagittarius is in that 10-degree period. Oh, it actually is. When did that happen? 10 degrees and 57 minutes. So it's not less than 10 degrees, but it's entered the 10th degree. So it's sliding into that first decan. We're sliding into the final sort of moments of this Gemini, Sagittarius. Oh, that also makes sense. the Gemini Sagittarius nodal axis, but the next full moon after this one, May 26th, I believe, will be full moon Sagittarius lunar eclipse. And so maybe that will more officially mark our sort of entry into this, like basically getting the angels to remember who you are. Um, and like what initially came to mind is the road to redemption, but then it became the road of perdition. And I believe that's the movie. To Perdition? I don't think I've ever seen it, but Road to Perdition, it's a 2012 film. That's the year. What's this about? Oh, Tom Hanks. An enforcer for powerful Depression era Midwestern mobster John Rooney. Rooney's son Connor is jealous of the close bond they share, and when Mike's eldest son, Michael, witnesses a hit, Connor uses the incident as an excuse to murder Sullivan's wife and youngest son. Forced to flee, Sullivan and Michael set out on a journey of revenge and self discovery. Okay. Tyler Hecklin is in it? Girl, Tyler Hecklin is apparently popping up everywhere. I watched the movie with Adam from Lonely Island, maybe. Brooklyn Nine-Nine, maybe. I think it was on Hulu, stuck in a time loop. And then I was like, it was like literally the movie was over before I was like, wait, is the bride's husband Tyler Hecklin? Excuse me? From Teen Wolf? And I just talked about watching Teen Wolf the other day. um, but maybe that's what like this is the start, this is the beginning is. Girl, Scorpio just Barbielle Angela Scorpio flipped over and I was trying to finish this shuffle. I didn't blow my nose. I'll be right back. Excuse me. Oh gosh. Excuse me. Ow! That that really hurt. I hit my knee on the chair. Um, Barbielle just like flipped over, and I tried to finish the shuffle, but then a whole bunch of angels just came out. The one at the top of the deck is Armoros, and Armoros talks about the curfew that the angels put the humans on after Barkiel. There's Turiel again, Bezaliel, Matariel, Satario, Matario, Rahab, Duma, Sariel, Angel of the Waiting Room. Girl, we're looking for you. But not like this. Not like this. Maybe it's like all of the things that this Scorpio full moon will potentially be setting off. Again, it feels like the beginning. And I can't in the dream remember what the cards were. Actually, I was gonna look and pull between the two Sariels, but I think I'll actually just take these. Because here's Barbiel, Angel of Scorpio. So instead of ending with Sariel, we're gonna begin with Sariel. I guess. Because that's what happened in the dream, maybe? I don't know. This is a lot though. Let's start this up here. I'm gonna end up picking these up anyway. Oh, this Duma has a wet moon. Okay. I do remember saying, oh, the waning moon, maybe it'll be wet. This one is wet. Mm. And we end with these two. That's the tail end of the angel that we saw earlier today. I kind of want to find the head. Maybe one day I'll look between the head and the tail, see what separates the body. So, anyway, that very much so feels like Pluto retrograde. Pluto is retrograding as for the upper majority of, for at least a very good portion of time while we're in the last 10 degrees of the nodes being in Gemini and Sagittarius. Um, Pluto, it can be like that descent into the underworld, or it can be us coming out of it, right? And I guess depending on where we are internally, whether we're in a space of death or in a space of rebirth, will kind of sort of determine the experience that we have. And it's like it can all be under the domain of Pluto, but it doesn't necessarily have to be rough, I guess, or difficult. Like we could experience a prolonged sort of blooming and blossoming, right? The rebirth side of that transformation, coming out of the chrysalis rather than going into it or being in it. So, in approximately 19 hours, Pluto is going to station retrograde. And then on October 6th, roughly, in 23 weeks, Pluto will station direct. Now, when Pluto stations direct, let's see. Oh, that's my cousin's birthday. Wait. The sun will be in Libra. Mars will be in Libra. It looks like Mars will be conjuncting the sun in Libra. The moon will be in Libra. So that'll be after a Libra new moon. Around the time of a Libra new moon, we're going to have Pluto station direct. And on the Taurus, or I keep saying Taurus full moon, on the Scorpio full moon, roughly, it's going to retrograde. And that is a step back from Scorpio back into Libra. It's almost an energy of revisiting the drawing board. It's also an energy of like us not being ready or prepared to step up in a way that we were needed or not, yeah, to step up in some way. It's like there were some personal, internal, like I was going through my own internal hell, so I couldn't be there to give a certain connection. And a connection can be you and a person, it can be you and your team, it can be you and your job, you and the environment, whatever that is. So it's interesting that we're coming from this full moon Libra, full moon Scorpio, Pluto retrogrades, and then it's retrograding from basically the full moon in Scorpio to the new moon in Libra. And so there's this like lunar regress that sort of corresponds to the Pluto retrograde or regress. And it's interesting because the moon and the sun are the only two planets that will never retrograde. So it's almost like since the moon can't retrograde itself, Pluto is positioning its retrograde to not do it for the moon, but to give the moon the opportunity to revisit or build upon whatever it needs to revisit or build upon. Because that's what a retrograde gives us the opportunity to do. It's almost like It's giving us the opportunity to see where we kind of sort of F stuff up and then to stop doing it by choice. So I guess I'll just read these one by one. Sorry, y'all. Angel, actually, let's do this because this is fun. Oh, girl, that's a lot. Ooh, nope, I ain't doing it. I ain't doing it. I'm gonna just shuffle these 3 times. That was 1. This is 2, 3, and then I'll just go off the top. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. No, 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 no. Yeah, this here, and then the bottom here. Even though I feel like it should be reversed. Where form and function align, the power of words to brighten and terraform. 3 of hearts, 3 hearts that beat as one. That 3 of hearts energy, 3 hearts that beat as one. It feels like there's a masculine alignment, a feminine alignment, and then the heartbeat of the child that they produce, or the unified heart that the two of those halves make. It reminds me of like the heart emoji and the heart symbol. It's what happens when you sort of stitch 2 hearts together. Because an individual heart isn't shaped like that, but it's kind of sort of shaped like that. And then when it comes into be with another one, then they can take that shape. And as the suturing, the stitching is mended, then it's like they fuse into one. And again, that could be a sort of connection in any space. It reminds me of 20 cups. It's like when you have one individual in 10 cups and it comes into contact with another individual at a space of 10 cups, then 10 cups is a movie, right? Bob's Burgers. Like, oh my gosh, that movie is terrible. Didn't you read the reviews? And that was a whole episode in which sort of like hypocrisy, I guess, is revealed. I guess we're just all over the place today, which is fine. Because what it does is it creates space beyond space. It creates understanding beyond understanding. It creates a capacity to love beyond what is, I guess, humanly thought. And a lot of times it seems when one person sort of like un I want to say like unfetteringly or unfetteredly, when one person loves another without bound, then it seems that most of the time it plays out in a very sort of maybe narcissistic way or in a way that's not mutually beneficial for both people. But it's a love for another and a love for self that keeps one sort of, I guess, responsible within oneself to the point where it can grow and expand not beyond what it's capable of, but beyond what we would assume it's capable of because of how healing and shadow work and being present in the world and navigating the world worked in the past. There's something about increasing capacity. So, with that, the Scorpio full moon coming off of the Libra full moon as we head into the Libra new moon within the space of this Pluto retrograde, it's giving us the opportunity to increase our capacity. It's like we're digging the well. And it takes me back to Mr. and Mrs. Beaver beyond the root chakra, where it's like in the hermit energy, we're following the stream back. If you think of the chakra system as a system of, I guess, riverbeds or whatever, waterways that are connected to each other. And you have these beavers that are damming things up and they're building homes there. You can't just forcibly displace them because if you do, then they'll just come back when you leave and build the dam again. It's like you have to find them a new home, you have to find them a new space and a new place, and then they won't come back. And that channel is free to flow. But once you get so far, then it's like you discover this little, almost silted up waterway that leads to something that is much more predecessory. It's sort of like it leads you to the system of waterways that connect to the divine wellspring, or it connects you more to the divine wellspring, and it lies beyond the root. I feel like a lot of times we would think it lies beyond the crown because that's where source is. Source is all out there in space somewhere, and we're down here, and it's about ascending to get to that connection. But it's like the truth of who we are at our core. It's little pieces of source energy. So it's the deeper you go within, and you really have to clear out the root before any of that can sort of be seen or take hold. And I guess that's possible during this time. Right? So, Sariel, angel of the waning moon. And we get this Sariel. We get the Sariel that actually has the waning moon instead of the other Sariel. My body wanes and is distorted. Smoke moves all around me. Excuse me. And it's as if I cease to exist. I blink in and out of time and wonder if I can still be seen when the light of seeing is denied even to me. Do you still whisper at dusk or cry out for me at midnight? Do you still reach to pull yourself up into my light, or do you ebb as I wane? And I love that it's asking if you ebb as Sariel wanes because it's about unlocking the flow, ebbing and flowing. And again, it's that question of like, I don't know if things are going to get darker in life again. In some places, they are. Um, like I know, like for example, in India, the cases are like just exponential right now. Um, and but it almost feels like I don't know how quickly it's going to be happening, but it almost feels like maybe with more and more and more people getting vaccinated, things will be opening up more and more. It feels like maybe we'll be getting back to a sense of normality, or we'll feel like it. And in that space, it's almost asking us if we're going to forget everything that we've learned in this time. Like the way it's playing out in my head, it's like I haven't seen WandaVision, but it's like WandaVision. Or it goes back to that simulation with Cerebro. It's like everything is going to look perfect. Everything is going to be getting back to that. But then it's going to be like this little nagging feeling of like something isn't right. Like I feel like I'm forgetting something. And it's like, do you still reach to pull yourself up into my light, or do you ebb as I wane? And the light of Sariel is it's waning. And so it's almost like it's asking, like, almost like, will you continue to hold the light or will you give into the darkness? But I don't think this darkness is necessarily dark. It feels like that nine of hearts or nine of diamonds, the inn that welcomes a weary traveler. Oh, it would have been so funny if that was this card, but it's not. It feels like that because it feels like it can be good. It feels like it can be really good, but it's not going to be what you were being guided to. It's not going to be what you were growing and healing into. And in that way, it's going to regress a little bit. The card that came out is Nearly Awakened Hidden Power, breath that takes the shape of one's truest desires and a commitment to self. I think that commitment to self is going to be what's tested. And this thing that begins to take form as the moon begins to wane, it's your breath's truest desire. And again, that's almost that end. It's like what you want most is a break, What you want most is a vacation. What you want most is to be happy. And it doesn't really matter if there's no substance there or if that isn't where you were being led because, hey, it's a lot easier than what you were doing, potentially. Now, I'm not going to say that the potential choice to make would be to continue doing and working on whatever you've been doing and working on because, it's been shown to you for a reason, because we all have those choices to sort of make. Duma, Angel of Dreams, coming out again with that waning moon. And this is a wet moon, right? Since the corners of the crescent moon are pointed upwards, if you were to pour water into this, it would hold it. Now, if the moon was like that or like that, then it would spill out. If you pour into this, it would just spill right back out. But here's that wet moon in the Angel of Dreams. Languishing aloft, the master of dreams rests in repose. Among the stars it makes its nest, swathed in silver and gold. An untold truth is to be spoken aloud, lost to the chiming of a bell. And again, it feels like that untold truth is related to the things that we've been experiencing. But as things get more and more promising, as things pick up, then it's almost like it can be lost, potentially. Four of Diamonds, dawned before the first day of a new world, and old Earth passed away, a breathtaking sight. I feel like with these two together, this is going to be, it feels like it's determined again, mostly on where we are in this process, right? This is supposed to be more, well, it's the time between this Scorpio full moon and the new moon in Taurus, well, while the moon is waning. And then there's that like global sort of like Pluto retrograde energy. Um, but it feels like if you're on more of the transformation side of that, if you're on more of the rebirth side of transformation than the death side of transformation, if you're coming out of the chrysalis rather than going into the chrysalis or being in the chrysalis, then this could be the fulfillment of some of the things that it's almost like you write up. I want to call it a contract. You write up a contract for, it's just like employment when you sign a contract. And it's like, if you do this work and this healing and that healing, then these things, like this is how you'll be paid. It feels like a payment. It feels like a reward. It feels like progress moving forward. And the way that you can tell the difference is anything moving forward, I feel, take it as it resonates, anything moving forward that will be of your benefit will play off of and continue the healing and the work that you've been doing. If something comes your way and it requires you to let go of everything that you've been building within yourself, then that may not necessarily be the place where you end up. Next is Rahab, Angel of the Deep. Rahab ferried the bodies of the dead into the sea. His promise to mankind was to bring them to a place where they would never be disturbed. They prayed that the abyss would give the dead peace. No one could know for sure except the grim watcher. The passage into darkness was a place of no return. It was his home and his alone. That is its nature. There's this energy here. Again, I feel like it's playing off of that. I mean, it's been a thing in so many different like video games and animes where it's like the world is made perfect. We start living this life that's perfect, but it's like something's wrong, something's missing. And it's a world that's designed to keep us complacent. That's basically the world that we just came out of. And maybe it took everything happening last year to happen for us to finally maybe reach the point in some ways where we can see all the ways in which it wasn't right or all the ways in which it could be better. And so we start doing this internal thing, and the internal thing can be a lot more difficult than we thought it would be. And maybe we want a moment of rest and maybe we want a moment of repose, but That was this card, wasn't it? Repose. Yeah, languishing aloft, the master of dreams rests in repose. Um, but it isn't for us to give up halfway or to do anything partway. The card that came out here is an internal truth burning to be seen, the yin side of masculinity in a thrusty yet elegant dance. An internal truth begging to be seen. That feels like a light that we discovered while we were in the dark. And I'm looking at the fish in this card, and there's this energy of like an energy of being submerged, an energy of darkness, because when you're submerged and water's deep enough, the light can't penetrate that deep. It's just how water works. It's how refraction works, the refraction of light. And so it's like there is something sacred here. This feels like a seed of light, honestly. It feels like a seed of light that was discovered in this time of darkness. There was an internal truth that was burning to be seen, but it was one that we could never find because we were too distracted by everything else. And I feel like that's going to be the truth. That's going to be the piece. That's going to be the key item, the key factor in moving our lives forward in some way. That when everything begins to go back to normal, or when things begin to pick up, or when you start to envision your life, like, I'm going to start traveling and doing this and doing that. I can't wait. I can't wait. It looks like it's becoming more and more and more possible. It feels like it could be one of the easiest things to just forget about. But it feels like seed of light. It feels akashic. It feels like it's getting nearer and nearer to those pools, those predecessory pools that connect more to the divine, things that could only be discovered in the dark. It reminds me of the star card in the Wild Unknown Tarot, and how sometimes it looks like a light, it looks like a star resting in a bed of light in a space of darkness, in an ocean of darkness. And a lot of times, because of how we're conditioned and because of how we view things, when we see a light in a dark space, it might make us think of an anglerfish. That was the thing. That was the thing, with the demon of greed and December. I think that's when that anglerfish energies first started popping up. And then throughout the year last year, I remember there were like a few different like anglerfish energies. It's like the anglerfish is the fish that has like the little lantern, on the end of it, and the lantern will attract fish. Oh my gosh! And then look, Rahab and his little orb of light, and the fish swimming nearby. The anglerfish's little lantern will attract fish, and then it'll eat them. But this isn't a light in the darkness that is a mechanism that's used to attract prey easily. This is an actual like this is actually it. Like this is it. Like this is, again, it's the key, it's the beginning of this road to redemption. Now, next we move to Sathario. Sathario? Sathario, Angel of Deception. Who came out with Tamiel, Angel of the Unseen, around old Turiel? While Samyaza created the flax of truth, Sathariel would spin it into thread and would weave it into the very reality around him. He was entrancing. The patterns of his wings would flex and flow with his impersonations, making his performances irresistible to watch. When he was stabbed through the heart, no one had any idea what had really happened. His death was met with applause for its realism. This is another watcher that's died. Not only is it another watcher that's died, it's another watcher who perished. And it's a little more indirect here. It's implied to be more indirect here. but it's another watcher who perished. Well, Sathario may not be a watcher. Second angel. It's the second angel that's died because of its own power in some way. Because he could spin the flax of truth into the reality around him. There's a little bit of a Duma, or not Duma, a little bit of a Basilial energy here, right? Because it's like there's the body here, the one that's languishing and the spirit is expiring, but then you see the hood behind it, and like it looks like there's a person behind that. And so it's almost like you would think that the person behind it is the actual angel and this is the whatever, but this is the actual angel. The actual angel has perished. There is a little bit of an energy of puppetry here, but it isn't necessarily, it's not extremely intentional. It feels like the things that we willingly buy into to support whatever view of the world we need to more comfortably coast through life. Whatever makes it less complex and more easy to understand, even if the understanding works against us. Um, but yeah, that's the second angel that perishes in some part because of its own power. And so there's a respect that we need to have. Just like the angels need to respect their own power, we need to respect our own power. And again, not be so quick to give it to things that don't serve us or to feed it to belief systems that further suppress us. And then it's interesting because it's like you can be so in your power, but giving it to the wrong things that you don't even think that you're in your power. But that's sort of like the flax of truth that you weave into your reality. Because it is like if you're a hypochondriac, for example, or if you believe that if a fly lands on you, you'll instantly die so hard. Like if you put all of your belief into that, your power will make it so that if a fly ever happens to land on you, you'll die. It's psychosomatic. It's the brain is powerful enough to sort of override the senses and for things to actually happen to us, regardless of if they're real or not. But the brain controls everything, so that's not a surprise. The internal invited to the external, inner secret revealed, and cognition illuminated in this. I feel like between the internal invited to the external and cognition illuminated, it's going back to us sort of seeing how, in some ways, seeing how our beliefs inform the reality that we live in. But it's like it's on a very core level. I don't think 95, no, I'm pretty sure 95 is not the sun. What is 95? I'm curious. Curiouser and curiouser. Let me see, because I feel like this 95 is important. Here it is. I'm like, I make this so accessible on my phone. It's literally the first app, but I always forget when I'm looking for it. 95 is Jupiter. Jupiter is an energy of expansion. And again, it takes me to that. It's like your mind is powerful enough to do that to you. And if you're someone who is powerful enough that when you speak or when you think or when you believe, you are instantly and immediately validated by your universe, then imagine how you holding a thought or belief that isn't necessarily true, or that is true, doesn't matter. How you holding a belief that doesn't serve you can really weave that into something that it becomes this elaborate play for your own downfall. It's like, whenever you ask for a sign or whenever you're doing something and now you're seeing 1111 and 222 and 333 everywhere, everywhere. And the more aware you are of it, the more you see it, then it's like if your line of communication is that effortless or is that strong in whatever time, then just imagine how the things that you choose to believe in all kinds of ways, the world around you begins to manifest. Maybe on the healing side of this, or on the lighter side of this, on the coming out of the chrysalis, coming out of the underworld, side of this, it's like really beginning to use all of your tools in a way that builds this reality that you like instead of the one that you don't like. But on the other side, it may be realizing these things. I remember talking to somebody, and it's like they could say something and then begin seeing it everywhere. And from my outside perspective, I'm like, well, don't you see how powerful you are? And with this power, what are you using it for in your own life? You're using it to create this world that you don't want, to continue this nightmare that you've been living for too long. But at the end of the day, your choices, your beliefs, your everything is your own. And all of those decisions, all of those changes, it falls solely on you to do. Nobody else can do it for you. People can tell you what to believe, but if you're still afraid at your core, then the fear is going to be made manifest. Is this Bezaliel? No, it's Matariel, angel of rain. O lonely fountain, bless us mortals that dwell beneath you. Let our gratefulness abate your sadness. Let our prayers reach you, lonely Matariel. We seek your embrace. We beg that you may stretch your hand so we may praise your generosity. O great muse of rain, O sustainer of life, we patiently await your blessing. Especially after all this feels like an energy of creating some savior outside of yourself. And it's almost like, because it's almost like Matariel is going to do whatever Matariel is going to do, regardless of whether or not you ask for it. And it's like how you utilize it or how you operate, how you cultivate, that determines what your outcome is. The card here, it's the Three of Clubs in reverse, on the cusp of realization, a shared vision, and a quickening. But with that in reverse, it feels like, again, it feels like belief systems that just further disempower us. And so we never really fully realize how powerful we are in ourselves because we continuously give it to someone else or look for it from someone else. And it's like Captain Planet, like the power is yours. Collectively, you can do more, yeah. But it's each individual aspect that gives the collective its overall flavor, right? It's like if I was talking about the primordial pool earlier. It's like if there was 20 cells that got together and every cell decided to perform the same function, we would have never evolved to multicellular organisms. It's the fact that some organisms in the beginning, some single cell organisms specialized in whatever they specialized in, that now we have like brain tissue and we have heart tissue and lung tissue and skin cells and blood cells, and It's because of that specialization and cooperation, specialization in conjunction with cooperation, that the body eventually became what the body is. And it's not about sort of glorifying or looking up to what something or someone else can do. It's about what you can do and what you can do well enough to be of a benefit to someone else. And sometimes you don't see how you're a benefit to anyone until, I don't know, it's blank. That part's for us to figure out. Next is Bezaliel, Angel of Shadows, and it's the old Bezzy. It's this one. Bezaliel's shadow failed to stick to the ground. Instead, it hung in the air like a specter, a twisted impersonator carrying a ghastly sense of unlife as it floated nearby. In the right light, it was hard to tell the two of them apart. His blank, expressionless face was always half hidden by a hood. No one could ever know for sure if they were looking at the real angel or his shadow. It was just easier to avert your eyes. He would walk through your dreams at night, watching from a distance and saying nothing. This reminds me of this, where it's like, we think that the angel here in this card is like it's either this one or maybe it's this one in the corner, but the real angel is the one there. This is also interesting because there's like a little tree theme here, and it reminds me of this tree in Duma, the angel of dreams. And look, they're laying very similarly, this one and this one, with that wet moon. So the Queen of Clubs in reverse, bringing order to thought, proper delegation of tasks, seeing the internal through the external. It's interesting that both of these cards, they came out one next to each other. Both of them in reverse that involve the internal and the external. So there is some calculation that needs to be done, some filter matching that needs to be done to more accurately see the internal and external, to more accurately establish the balance of that like man versus angel dynamic, or that moon versus sun dynamic. I feel like as beings on earth who are made of so much water, who are sort of subjected to so much water, we overly prioritize or we overly inflate the pull of the moon. And it's not to disrespect the moon, and it's not that the moon isn't amazing, but it's like we almost forget the power of the gravitational effect of the sun that literally keeps us close enough for our planet to be warm enough to support life. And it's like, yeah, the moon is cool. Oh my gosh, it can like pull the tides and like, ooh, we can have mood shifts, but it's literally the sun. And it's a gravitational sense that's delicate. It's delicate enough to keep us perfectly positioned to get as much sunlight as we need to keep things warm and to keep things on, to keep us to sustain us. And I don't want to say the moon is only special because of the sun, but we only see the moon because it reflects sunlight. See, yeah, there's this energy here of like the moon is going to do what the moon does. Things are going to do what they do. We don't have to overly pedestal them. And it's in doing that that we separate ourselves even more from the truth of who we are. And there, again, like there are things that only the moon can do, because if the sun were out all the time, we'd never have night. And because everything is cyclic in nature, like it's not necessarily possible or sustainable for us to constantly be in night. The body has to sleep and rest sometime. but it's not to forget where the source of that comes from either. Next is Turiel, angel of the mountain. Here I remain under a mountain made of many hands, all reaching and all taking. I press my body closer to that which I must keep. It is mine, and I will shield it from the misery of other hands. I can feel their gaze fall on it like an avalanche. Their greed feeds my convictions, so here I remain. Coming out with the two of spades, a displacement replaced, unintended and unforeseen consequences, and a need for wisdom. It's funny that a need for wisdom came out because that's what Turiel got. That's what Turiel got after a while. And there's in a lot of these cards, especially if you look at if you try to bridge the story between the two, there's an evolution of man that really shifts things. And it's not that angels can't evolve, but angels hold a more stationary energy. Obviously, it's not that they can't evolve because some of them fail. Is falling an evolution? Is ascending an evolution? Maybe. But it's like man, because we're ruled by the moon and the pull of the moon, we can ebb and flow and shift so drastically, so quickly, and we can do some pretty wild things because of emotions and things like that, or a lack of emotion. But with angels, it's like they're a lot more fixed in what they do. And so it's like mankind was changing so much quicker than it's almost like because again, because of Barakia, we know that the angels aren't complete in their wisdom. And the angels know that they're not complete in their wisdom, right? God is the one that created sort of humans and the angels and everything. Supreme Creator is the one who does that or who did that. And it's like almost like when you are dealing with a child, like you don't know what's going to happen. And so the early angels came and they gave so many gifts and so many talents to man. It's like they were pouring into man so much, only for man to take certain paths fueled by certain decisions or fueled by certain desires to accumulate whatever egoic desire, fueled by those desires, it twisted man. And it's almost like just like Apollo, like once you give a gift to man, you can't really take it back. Or maybe they didn't see until it was too late how things were shifting and changing. And then man begins to do things that cannot easily be undone with what he's been given. And it's a need for wisdom. Again, it reminds me of what my mom said when she was like, I really hope that you're not the type of person that has to learn things the hard way. Because if you do, you'll make your life very, very, very difficult. And I'm just noticing this snake. Because on the other Tyrael, I was gonna say that snake it coils around him and then it comes like over his crown. I was like, oh, that's like Kundalini energy. That's like a Kundalini awakening. But now the snake is separate. Honestly, this feels very Garden of Eden to me. Like the snake was trying to tell Turiel that like you can't trust man. Or it's not that you can't trust man, but man has will beyond your own. Man has choice beyond what you are capable of understanding what choice is. Man is not created so static. And it's because Turiel experienced whatever Turiel experienced that he's gained wisdom. It reminds me again of Into the Woods when Little Red Riding Hood is like, isn't it nice to know a lot, but a little bit not? She was like, I was naive before. I didn't know anything before. And it took this wolf eating my granny and eating me for me to realize that maybe you can't trust everybody, that maybe you shouldn't stray from the path, that maybe you should listen to your mama when your mama say go straight there and don't stray. And it's like, well, because it happened, now I know so much. Like, isn't it great that I know so much? But at the same time, like, not really, because I had to go through that experience to gain this wisdom. And one of the things that we can do when we more align our system and then fix that system and tune that system to other alignments, higher alignments, it's like it can eliminate a lot of needing to go through darkness and needing to grow, needing to go through darkness, despair, and challenge to grow and heal. It becomes a point where we can eventually sort of just integrate, or we can just heal, or we trust more than we need to experience something. So then we have Azazel, angel of sacrifices, the sacrifices that it takes for us to wisen up and learn, right? The first watcher of the north. Azazel taught mankind how to forge. This is what I was talking about. Azazel taught mankind how to forge weapons and tutored them in respecting this power. Throughout those first years, he never wavered in his dedication to enriching the lives of mankind. In ways large and small, he sought to raise them up. Despite his efforts, Azazel was the first to be blamed when the catastrophe began. With mankind's trust broken, every bit of goodwill he had built was traded for an equal amount of resentment. Why does this card low key make me think that it was man that actually killed Satario? Something with this, like the swirly thing right here, and then there's like this, it's here too, like this swirl, like boom boom, you see that swirl, and then a swirl here. It also makes me think that maybe like Duma wasn't an accident. Or not Duma, that Barakiel wasn't an accident. Maybe Barakiel actually respected his power more than we're led to believe. Maybe Barakiel was also killed by man, and then it was like, oh, well, Barakiel didn't expect his power. Did you see how he used it? He was taken out by himself. And it feels like Turiel was almost taken out in the same way. And that's why Turiel, he backed up, and that's why he guards what he must as fiercely as he does, right? It says, I press my body closer to that which I must keep. It is mine, and I will shield it from the misery of other hands. I can feel their gaze fall on it like an avalanche. Their greed feeds my conviction, so here I remain. And Turiel, old Turiel was the one who was like known for his showmanship, and his showmanship fueled him just as much, just like Barakiel would attract the crowd with his gifts. And maybe that's what people didn't like about Tamiel, because Tamiel wasn't fooled by appearances. Tamiel could see to the truth of the matter that lied deep in the heart, a truth that lied deeper than what we hope mankind could have been. That's why they didn't like Turiel or Tamiel. That's why they didn't like Tamiel, because Tamiel could see the darkness within him, within them. And in a certain way, like, I don't necessarily fully know what this means in context of our own lives, right? These are the cards I got. I ain't got everyday tarot cards, so. But it feels like man turned on the angels. And it's honestly, it's reminding me of the Garden of Eden with the snake that tempted Eve, and then Adam saw Eve eating the fruit, so Adam ate the fruit. Wouldn't it be wild if like the snake was some angel that was there guarding the tree, or guarding the tree of the knowledge of good and evil? And then Adam and Eve schemed up a way to distract the guard and get the fruit, or to get the fruit. And they're like, "Oh, it was the snake. It was the snake. The snake tricked me." And what if like God knows that angel? God knows that the snake wouldn't do that. And that's why he cast Adam and Eve out, because they needed to grow in ways. They have free will, they have choice. They're not like angels, fallen or not, which predominantly follow a certain program. They're not like that. They have will, they have choice. And because they have will and they have choice, there's this need for wisdom. There's a need for wisdom in everything that they do. Because as powerful as man is just as much of me as the angels are, or anybody else. The rise of two empires synchronized, a vision that ignites the self and the soul. Five of Spades coming out with Azazel, angel of sacrifice. But it's a storyline that runs so rampant in so many, and also like, I watch anime and I play video games, and the types of media that I consume plays a factor. But it's a storyline that runs, it's paralleled almost everywhere, right? There are these ancient races, there are dragons, there are unicorns, there are these magical beings, and then there's man. And over time, man grows envious, and grows greedy, and man kills and takes forcibly. And because of that, man is thrown into the world of mundaneness, because anything too whatever, it's like there's a something within man that it's weird. And again, it's like with other energies, I guess, don't necessarily have the power of will, or will and choice doesn't work the same for them. Honestly, it feels like a tale of betrayal when man betrayed the angels and then had the audacity to pray to them. Again, more times than not for their own selfish gain. More times than not. And it's like, have we learned nothing through the age of Pisces? King of Spades, inspiring others by bold example, proper magnetism and clear intention, clearing of the fog, is coming out with the tail end of this fallen angel. The Queen of Diamonds, an abrupt change of season, the vision catching up to fantasy, the filling of valleys and falling of mountains, is coming out with Armoros, the angel of undoing. Armoros removed the monuments that bound their will to men. Armoros removed the monuments that bound their will to men. Armoros was the one that was like, mankind it's getting nasty, girl. We're out. We're getting out of here. We're out. We're cutting our losses. They are savages. They're savage beyond savagery. They are cruel beyond cruelty. They are vile beyond the most evil of evils. And sometimes they don't even know it. Armoros removed the monuments that bound their will to men. After seeing Baracchio fall, they no longer wanted to take the risk. Ah, see? And with the storyline where Baracchio was actually killed, instead of, oh, he didn't respect his own power and he killed himself. Because before this storyline, this energy was one that was like, oh, the angels are realizing that they're not immortal and they don't want to look a certain way in front of mankind. And so they're going to shut mankind in the dark so that mankind can't see any more of their weaknesses. But in this storyline, it takes on a whole different meaning. After Baracchio fell, Armoros removed the monuments that bound their will to men. And it's like there are people who will literally pray for the downfall of other people. People who will seek angelic assistance or whatever kind of assistance with very like negative intent. After the disarmament, the Watchers imposed a curfew, restricting anyone other than their brethren and offspring from moving freely after dark. The punishment for violating this law was so severe that few attempted it. Even as their grip on control tightened, their insecurity grew. And I feel like there is a certain fear, I guess, that's here. That's the filling of valleys and the falling of mountains. It's like man's ability to equalize the playing field, which would have been fine if man was like, not what man is. But because man is what man is, it's like, oh, we got to get out of Dodge. Like, they're going crazy. They're starting to kill each other. They're starting to, they kill everything down there. They kill everything. They even kill the planet that they live on. Hello? Like, girl, like, where else are you gonna go? You're like, this is it, right? Like, oh no, we're fine. We'll make it to Mars, and then we'll kill Mars. And when Mars is dying, maybe we'll make it to Jupiter. I don't know. Or we'll find a way to escape this solar system and just be a plague everywhere else. Just leeching life, no respect, everywhere. And it reminds me of how they say that the Native Americans would like use every part of the animal. And even when they would eat an animal or end a life, they would show respect and they would honor that. Because again, everything requires something. Everything feeds off of something. I don't know exactly what that's going to have to do between this. I keep wanting to say Taurus full moon and this Scorpio full moon going into the Taurus new moon. But Taurus new moon is almost feeling like the energy of like the land of milk and honey. And if we can figure out whatever we need to figure out in this period of time, then as the larger Pluto retrograde, there are certain lessons that we could probably skip because we don't need them, right? It's like we're testing out. Yeah. Which is unfortunate. And again, it reminds me of Lord of the Rings or the Silmarillion. I feel like a lot of times I'm like, it reminds me of this. This is something that I've never seen, read, or watched, but it reminds me of this. It reminds me of the Silmarillion when, all of the different races had their rings, and it was mankind that grew greedy and mankind that wanted to subject its dominance over the other races, and they were going to get the home of the elves. And to stop that from happening, the creator of that world curved it. Like everything used to be flat, but the creator of that world curved it for everyone but the elves because the home of the elves lied at the edge of the world. But because it was curved, man could never get there because every time it would get close, it would just pop up on the other side of the world. And that's why elves have the abilities that they have. It lends to their eyesight because they see the world as flat still. They navigate through the world as if it's flat still. But for the men, for the dwarves, and everybody else, it's curved. And it reminds me at the end of the movie, I've only watched them once. They're long. When they're taking Frodo to that place and they're like, you can't come. And so there is a little bit of an energy here. And maybe that's why we need to have our light on. Maybe that's why the alignments and things of that nature are so important. Oh, I love it. And I'm going to end it here because this is the Sariel at the top of the deck with the full moon. Boom, girl. Yes. It takes the elves have to take Frodo there. Frodo goes on his own journey of proving that he, even though the hobbits wasn't necessarily whatever, He goes on his own journey, basically to prove that he's not going to show up to the land where the elves live and try to take claim and do stuff like that. He leaves the light on to let the angels know, okay, like this one is safe. That's one that we can work with more because they're not going to get weird when they come into these abilities and things like that. They're not going to start using them for unsavory purposes, and they're not going to fall into that ego trap of like, I'm going to be the best, most powerful, most psychic, spectacle, whatever. Because in reality, it's like you'd make yourself a target for other men and women, and maybe even sadly children. So Sariel, and then Armoros, the angel of undoing, with Gadriel. This is why Gadriel came out feeling like a return earlier. This is why Gadriel is the spear, but he never used it. Gadriel is feeling like the space of us. Anyway, Sariel, angel of the waning moon. As the oh my gosh, this is what I was talking about. As the earth tugs on the moon tugs back on the earth. For each force, another will always exist in perfect opposition. The lives of men and angels are similar, though the power of one may be greater than the other. Their existence reflects each other. Their existence reflects each other, but then we have Armoros coming right here, right after, destroying the monuments that bind their will to man, putting man under curfew. And again, it's that energy of like how things are fundamentally rewritten to protect certain energies from mankind. Cambiel, angel of Aquarius, is on the bottom of the deck. The process of creation requires us to draw something from within and bring it out into the world. We take the experiences and emotions that have been given to us and pass them along, the good, the bad, beauty, and pain. Those close to Cambiel know this process very well. To enrich those around us, we sacrifice a little piece of ourselves, pouring out our hearts in the hope that another vessel will take a drop of it with them. It makes Asbiel, oh, look. And then there's Azazel, angel of sacrifices, right under it. To enrich those around us, we sacrifice a little piece of ourselves. And then there's the angel of sacrifice. Maybe that's what the age of Aquarius is going to give us, that the age of Pisces clearly did not, because people were killing people, murdering people, still doing it in some places under a god or under a name that's supposed to be about love. And it's like, okay, but like, where is it though? Like for someone who believes so much in love, your love is pretty absent right now. Color me that. Riddle me this. Oh. One second. Yeah. It's like the worlds used to be one, but now they're not because man ruined it. I mean, we see what some people do with things now. It's like, okay. But I feel like, again, we're coming into a period. Hey, Mimi! My nap was amazing. Oh, that makes sense. Oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. That makes so much sense. Yeah, we're coming into a time where the veil is thinning in a lot of ways. And there are certain energies that are more directly reaching out to people. And it's in that space of proving, it's in that space of holding the light in a time of darkness. It's almost like if you can hold a light now, then we know that you would never be one to succumb to whatever the men in old days succumbed to. It became a word, succumbed to, that caused them to flip the script the way they did. Ah, it's the Nine of Hearts. A blip of light at the heart of a black hole, progenitors in a primordial pool, but it came out in reverse. Bottom of the deck is the Six of Hearts. Maximizing or minimizing limitation or support, look to the root. That limitation or support, either the divine will limit your gifts and abilities or will enhance your gifts and abilities, will work with you further or will work with you less. Look to the root, look to your root. What kind of person does it paint you to be if you got a little bit of power or ability? And this card in reverse, progenitors in a primordial pool, it's like undoing the sins of your ancestors and your 4 mothers and fathers, proving that you're not the one to do that. And so this is going to be a space maybe where that's tested, and I don't know how it's going to be tested, but which is why it's going to be important for you to hold on to the healing and to hold on to the growth and to not be so quick to cast it aside when things kind of sort of start to improve. I don't know. Take it as it resonates. Girl, that's like, I'm like, wait. But also, again, with the energies that are reaching out, with the energies that are making themselves present in a way that they weren't necessarily before, and maybe they were for certain people, of course, I wouldn't know. But it's like, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. And again, that reminds me, and bottom of the deck under that, I just looked at it. It's the Four of Hearts, a murky mind or will, clouded vision. But it reminds me of that King of Spades that came out earlier. That was the clearing of the fog. For those who navigate the forest, for those who navigate the darkness, for those who navigate the fog, before it's lifted, they'll come into a space of greater mastery. It's a space of proving. Proving what? I don't know. But you got to hit the respin. You missed so much. You missed everything, Mimi. I'm literally, it's been an hour, 16 minutes, and 46 seconds, and I'm wrapping it up. But that's what this is, I believe. It's a twist, it's a spin on the tail that's interesting. But that's another thing about Hierophant energy. That's another thing about anyone who can tell the story. They'll sell you the version of the story that makes them look good. Nobody's going to be like, yeah, we acted in a certain way. And so all of the divine energy that was on the planet fled the planet because mankind was doing some crazy stuff. And that's why we're in the position of darkness that we're in now. No one's going to be like, oh, yeah, well, we killed, we murdered, we stole, we took from people who didn't deserve it. They're going to be like, oh, this is why we did this. That's why we did that. And of course, we'll believe it because down here, we don't know any better. We live short lives. We don't know anything outside of our own existence or awareness. And it's really easy to buy into a lot of stuff. That puts so much context to so many things. But I mean, that's what I said last year. So I don't know. I know I've met quite a few people. Honestly, I've met a lot of the people that I more regularly interact with now. I met after I said all of this last year. But if you go back last year, you'll find it. That's another reason why I keep making videos. It's because it's there. And if anyone ever comes upon these later, I guess, or if I ever, what if like these are still up in my next incarnation and I could watch myself now? Like, what? That was me. That it would be crazy though if I was like, oh my gosh, I think I was Patrick Woodson in my past life. Isn't that wild? I can't even conceptualize. I can kinda. That'd be so crazy. Like, oh my gosh, I think this random dude on YouTube who made all these videos with like no views was me. And it's not about that. It's sort of an energy of like leaving it for posterity. Also, it's putting it out into the universe. Because there are things that I keep within my own internal universe. And I found through my this past year, I found that when I begin to express those things, it has a way of connecting in a way that it can't when I just keep it inside me. But anyway, It's like I was saying last year, those who navigate this space have the opportunity to come into a greater level of mastery before the certainty, before everything is made clear. But anyway, it was good to see you in the last few minutes, Mimi. I'll catch y'all later. I hope you have a good whatever whenever you see this. Interesting times coming for sure. Maybe. Who knows, right? Take it as it resonates and the like. Bye.